हेलो स्टूडेंट्स, वेलकम टू आवर न्यू चैनल स्टेनो वाले सर। मैं आपको डिक्टेशन प्रोवाइड करने जा रहा हूँ। बी रेडी फॉर इट। स्टार्ट। मिस्टर वाइस चेयरमैन सर, द सेंट्रल क्वेश्चन ऑफ सिक्योरिटी इन ए सोसाइटी amongst people in nations requires that we be very clear as to what we mean when we use the words national security. National security has many ramifications. It would be simplistic to reduce it to purely the military angle. A discussion like this is not a discussion which limits itself to the concept of spend more, spend less on defense. Like in the relationship between law and justice, it is not axiomatic that merely because we spend money and have forces, therefore we have security. The concept is of deep and multifaceted ramifications. I would seek your indulgence, sir, to quote on the aspects of national security. Sir, the commonly articulated Defense Ministry's viewpoint, as is evident every year, is the defense budget is to preserve as inviolate the frontiers of the nation and its internal sovereignty. This is a commonly articulated definition of national security. To my mind, this is limited both in vision and in application. Of course, the maintenance of internal sovereignty is very much a function of our armed forces, but national security is not merely the preservation of the territorial integrity of our frontiers. National security involves the preservation of values, the lifestyle, and civilizational concern. The purely military aspect of a nation's security is therefore only a small but an integral component of a much larger concern, and even internally the task is much more than a mere physical safeguarding of our boundaries. Our central concern when we talk about security is with the preservation of the Indian nation, and until we are clear about the core values of our nationhood and are able not only to articulate them but also to obtain a national commitment to them, we would not even know what it is that we are attempting to protect or to secure. These core values may well be destroyed if the nation is subjected to external aggression. But in today's world, aggression or imperialism has many ramifications. It is a finely sophisticated weapon and it need not necessarily reflect itself merely in the form of physical aggression. Therefore, when one is talking of national security concerns, one is talking of the military angle, one is talking of the industrial angle. It is my belief, sir, that the most vital component into a nation's security effort is internal. If the internal fabric is weak, if the internal thought is loose, then no amount of military spending will provide to the nation the security that it is seeking. There is a limitation of time. I do wish to come to substantive points. My resolution talks of deteriorating security environment, I shall submit through history and in a very real geostrategic sense that there are three strategic components. If one is talking of the external security to this nation's security, these three components are the buffer of Tibet, the buffer of Afghanistan, and the buffer of the Indian Ocean. The very structuring of this peninsular subcontinent is such that it is beyond bound by the Himalayas, which provide a kind of protection, and it is encircled by the Indian Ocean, which provides us protection from aggression across the seas. It is my sad duty to point out to this nation, to this house, and through the house to whatsoever is hearing this, that independent India's history of our efforts at preservation of even the territorial integrity of our country do not stand up to scrutiny. In the 40s, we accepted the biting of a portion of Jammu and Kashmir. In the 50s, we accepted the elimination of the buffer of Tibet. We went on and in the 60s accepted the biting of the high tops of the Aksai chain in the 60s itself, and as continued through the 70s, we accepted a diminution of our presence in the Indian Ocean. Though independent India's history, therefore, I do submit that what we have witnessed is not a kind of success, not an account of the preservation of the nation's security interests. We are well aware that around us in the South Asian region are central focal points of conflict in Southwest Asia, in Southeast Asia, in the West Asia region, and these focal points of conflict, these focal points of strife do affect on our security concerns. I was talking about the implications of strife outside our territorial boundaries, and we have to understand that living in the kind of interdependent world that we are, what happens outside the geographical boundaries of our nation does not isolate us from the impact of it. We have to take into account that in today's situation, what India is faced with is the elimination of all its traditionally recognized and historically established buffers